heavy silence filled the Peterson home. The family was mourning the death of their eldest son, Caleb, who had been killed in combat in Afghanistan. No one felt the loss more deeply than Laura, his mother. One quiet morning, with her husband and youngest son gone for the day, Laura sat alone, staring at a photo of Caleb. Her face was tight with grief, eyes dull, posture frozen. Then a knock broke the stillness. At the door stood a young man who introduced himself as David Collins, a former Army sergeant and Caleb's close friend. Laura, drained by sorrow and disarmed by his calm presence, let him in without hesitation. Inside, David told her he'd been with Caleb in his final moments. He said Caleb's last words were about his love for his family. Laura listened, said nothing, then walked out of the room. Behind the door, she collapsed, completely overcome. Moments later, Laura returned with a fragile calm. Her eyes were still red, but her voice steady. She found David standing near a photo of Caleb and his unit. He pointed to a man in the lineup, said it was him. The face in the picture looked close enough. David apologized for dropping by uninvited and offered to leave, but Laura told him to stay. She wanted her family to meet him. She even offered him Caleb's old room for the time being. The two spoke more, slowly easing into conversation. Then Anna, Caleb's sister, stepped out, dressed for work. Laura made the introduction, but Anna only gave David a quick look, uninterested. To her, he was just another face from the past. Soon after, Luke, the youngest, returning home. He walked with hesitation. At school, he was an easy target, bullied constantly for being gay. The abuse had turned physical. Just days ago, he'd been slammed into a locker. His face still showed the bruise. At that moment, David spotted the bruise on Luke's face as soon as he walked in. He asked what happened. Luke claimed it was from gym class, football. Before David could question it, Spencer, Laura's husband, entered. Spencer wasn't as accepting as Laura. While David introduced himself to Luke, tension rose in the hallway. Laura and Spencer were arguing. Spencer didn't trust David. Even if he knew Caleb, he was still a stranger and possibly unstable. A soldier with trauma could be a risk to the household. Eventually, Spencer gave in. He agreed to let David stay, at least for now. As a reluctant peace offering, he handed David a drink. It wasn't trust, but it was a start. That evening, while the rest of the family sat down to eat, Anna was at the park with her boyfriend, Zeke. She told him about David. She thought he seemed polite enough, but something didn't sit right. She feared his arrival might drag her parents back into grief, just as they were starting to heal. But sometimes, when someone walks into your home uninvited, they're not just a visitor. They're something else entirely. And in this story, he wasn't just any friend. He was the guest. After dinner, Spencer and David sat in front of the TV talking quietly. Spencer opened up. He spoke about work, how a colleague had climbed the ladder fast while he stayed stuck. The pressure to provide, the fear of falling behind, it was eating at him. David listened closely. He didn't say much, but his presence was steady. The connection between them grew quickly. When David mentioned he planned to leave the next day, Spencer pushed back. He told him to stay. He meant it. David tried to refuse, but Spencer wouldn't budge. In the end, David agreed. The next afternoon, Luke was caught off guard when David showed up to pick him up from school. David told him Laura had approved it. But he had another reason. He wanted the truth about the bruise. He didn't believe the football excuse. Calm but firm, David asked Luke to point out who had done it. Luke hesitated, then gave in. David followed the boys. They ended up at a bar. Luke was unsure at first, scared to go in. But after a pause, he followed David through the door. Despite his sudden arrival, David came prepared. He spotted the bullies drinking cheap beer and sent over the most expensive drinks on the menu. It didn't take long before they realized who had paid. One of them, feeling insulted, threw the drink straight in David's face. The rest laughed. David didn't flinch. He wiped his face, then hurled his own drink back, right into the boy's eyes. The sting hit instantly. In the same moment, David exploded into action. Two of them went down hard, hit with clean, brutal punches. The last two didn't last long. A couple of strikes each and it was over. Luke got caught in the chaos and took a minor hit, but he was okay. Unfortunately, the bar owner didn't like what he saw. He grabbed a baseball bat and stepped forward, but David stood firm. He reminded the man, serving alcohol to minors could get him in serious trouble. Then, with cold efficiency, David handed him a bribe. The message was clear: stay out of it. Not long after, when Anna got home, she mentioned she was heading to a party at her friend Kristen's house. Laura encouraged her to take David along, saying it's what Caleb would have wanted, his sister and his friend spending time together. Anna hesitated but gave in, while David accepted without question. Before they left, Anna went to shower. But as she reached the bathroom, the door swung open. David was inside. The moment caught her off guard. She froze, not just from surprise, but from the unexpected view. It was brief, awkward, and quickly over. They moved past it. At the party, Anna introduced David to her friends, Zeke, Craig, and Kristen, the host. At that moment, David stood out immediately, and Kristen was clearly interested. Her interest only grew when David stepped between her and her aggressive ex, shutting down the confrontation without hesitation. Later that night, Kristen brought David to her room. They slept together, but something felt off. David barely reacted. His face stayed blank and his presence distant. Later that night, David spoke with Craig, a known dealer who also moved illegal goods. Once Craig found out David had a military background, he offered his services, anything, anytime. David didn't hesitate. He said he needed a gun. When Craig asked why, David gave a cold smile and said it was simply because he was a soldier. After exchanging numbers, David noticed Anna in a heated argument with Zeke. She was clearly upset. A few minutes later, she asked David to leave the party with her, even though it was still going strong. During the ride home, David brought up the argument. At first, Anna didn't say much, but then she let it out. Zeke had no job and no plans in the future. He still sold drugs on the side, but even that was half-hearted. She was tired of it. David listened and said a few kind words that seemed to lift her mood. She smiled and promised to make him a mixed CD. The next morning, Anna went looking for David to give him the CD. But before she found him, she overheard something that froze her in place. David was on the phone, calmly talking about dental records, fingerprints, and people trying to track him. He said he needed a new face, one no one could recognize. Anna was shaken. Something about David didn't add up. Acting on instinct, she called the military base where he claimed to have served. But instead of a service record, the screen showed a warning. Classified. Refer to KPG Private Corporation.
Okay, ma'am. I'll call you when we have any details.
The operator followed protocol and contacted KPG. A man on the other end gave clear instructions. Anyone asking about David Collins was to be told he was dead. After the call, the man walked into a conference room where Major Carver, head of KPG, was holding a meeting. He reported the inquiry Anna Peterson had called. The moment Carver heard her name, he connected the dots. She was Caleb's sister. Carver didn't hesitate. He ordered a flight, assembled a squad of elite marksmen, and set his course for the Peterson home. At the same time, David was meeting Craig and an arms dealer in a quiet location, but he hadn't come to buy. After checking one of the weapons, he turned it on the dealer and shot him on the spot. Craig bolted, but he didn't get far. David raised the gun and dropped him without emotion. With both men dead, David searched their vehicle and took everything, several firearms and 2 grenades. He was ready for what came next. Back at the house, Anna got a call from the military base. The verdict was clear. According to official records, David Collins was dead. The news hit hard. She planned to tell Laura immediately, but before she could, Spencer walked in with shocking news of his own. His boss, the one he had resented for years, was dead. Both he and his girlfriend had been found murdered. Police hadn't identified a suspect, but the woman's body was badly bruised. Despite the grim circumstances, Spencer had finally received the promotion he'd been chasing for so long. The day got even stranger. Anna heard from Zeke that Craig had been found dead too, but David had covered his tracks. He planted evidence in Zeke's car and apartment, framing him for the killing. With no other choice, Anna decided to hold back the truth from her parents, at least for now. Instead, she met with Kristen at work and revealed what she had learned. David Collins had supposedly died a week ago in a hospital fire caused by an oxygen tank explosion. 19 people were killed. David was one of them, at least on paper. Disturbed by what they had uncovered, Kristen urged Anna to dig deeper. She told her to check David's ID and review his recent calls. Kristen also reminded her, Luke was good with computers. He might be their best shot at finding the truth. While Anna and Kristen planned their next steps, David was having a private talk with Luke. He told the boy never to let anyone push him around again. If it came to it, he said, fight back. And if that wasn't enough, carry protection. With that, he handed Luke a butterfly knife, one he clearly valued. Later that evening, Anna made her move. She snuck into David's room, snapped photos of the numbers in his call log, and slipped out. But in her hurry, she made a mistake, leaving the phone on the bed instead of where she found it. As a result, David noticed immediately. He knew someone had gone through his things. Despite this, Anna knew she needed more than phone numbers. She gathered her family and laid everything out. She told them about Craig's death, how Zeke was being framed, and how no one really knew who David was. If he was truly David Collins, she said, it was time to prove it. But David didn't flinch. He had a story ready. He said he had served in a secret operations unit and was wounded in action. Because of the classified nature of his missions, the military had created a false narrative to protect him. He claimed he had recently recovered his dog tags and could show more documents from his bag if needed. For Laura and Spencer, the dog tags were enough. They trusted him without hesitation. Spencer even demanded Anna apologize for questioning him, but she immediately refused.
Anna Peterson, you owe him an apology
No
right now.
fucking way.
No, Anna.
Crushed and furious, Anna locked herself in her room and broke down. A short while later, David knocked. He spoke softly, expressing sympathy over Craig and Zeke. He said if his presence made her uncomfortable, he would leave in a few days. Before walking out, he picked up the mix CD she had made and thanked her. Days later, while driving Luke to school, Anna shared her plan. She told him she needed help figuring out who David really was. She had traced one of the numbers he called to a doctor, someone stripped of his license after performing facial surgery while drunk. She asked Luke to start there and dig deeper. Luke didn't waste a second. As soon as he got to school, he started digging into the lead Anna had given him. But one of his bullies hadn't backed off. The boy came at him again, slinging the same slur.
Hey, faggot. Oh, are you looking for someone to do your sex change operation?
This time, Luke didn't take it. Fueled by David's words, he snapped. He fought back, beating the boy until he cried out in pain. After the incident, both were sent to the principal's office. Laura was called in and she arrived with David. When David heard what happened, he praised Luke for finally standing up for himself. Inside, the principal laid down the verdict, violence wouldn't be tolerated, and Luke was to be expelled. In response, David pushed back immediately. He called the decision wrong. The bully had used a hateful slur. That was a hate crime. Luke had been targeted for who he was over and over again, and now that he defended himself, he was the one punished. At that moment, David made it clear, if the school went through with the expulsion, he and Laura would sue.
What did the kid call him?
I don't think that's relevant to this conversation. Excuse.
So that makes it a hate crime.
Surprisingly, the threat worked. The principal folded. Luke wasn't expelled. Instead, he got a month of after-school detention. Feeling like he owed David everything, Luke made a tough choice. He turned on Anna. He told David that Anna believed he was behind Craig's death and planned to go to the police to clear Zeke's name. Luke admitted that he was starting to think she might be right. He also knew David had contacted a surgeon to change his face and guessed Craig might have killed Spencer's boss. Still, Luke said none of it mattered. David was his friend. He wouldn't say a word. David looked relieved and smiled. He asked if Anna had told anyone else. Luke said she might have told Kristen. Later that day, David helped Laura with the laundry in the backyard. She thanked him, not just for the chores, but for everything he had done for their family. David, calm and modest, told her it was nothing. He even offered to take care of the rest himself. As he stepped inside with an armful of clothes, trouble arrived. Carver and his elite team pulled up fast and quiet. Carver approached Laura, showed her a photo, and asked if she recognized the man. Nervous, Laura confirmed that the man was David. He had just gone inside. Hearing this, everyone turned toward the house. David appeared in the doorway, holding laundry. But he saw the threat instantly. Without hesitation, he dropped the clothes, pulled his gun, and shot 2 soldiers before slipping back inside. Inside the house, David moved fast. A bullet had torn into his thigh, but he didn't stop. He wrapped the wound tightly, then grabbed the stolen weapons he had hidden earlier. When a soldier moved toward the window, David took him out with a single shot, triggering a barrage of gunfire from outside. Pinned down, he crawled beneath a bed and waited. A soldier crept in unaware. As the man passed, David shot him in the leg. The soldier dropped. David finished him with a shot to the head, then quickly took down another who entered seconds later. With their team shrinking, the remaining soldiers opened fire on the house in full force. David stayed low, grabbed his gear-packed backpack, and made his way to the kitchen. There, he found Laura, shaking, crouched, dialing the police. He grabbed the phone before she could speak. Laura was terrified and wanted answers. She wondered who the men were, what was going on, and whether David truly knew her son. However, David said nothing, except for the last part, where he clearly knew Caleb. They had been part of the same program. And Caleb, he said, would have understood what had to be done. Laura's faith in David was gone. She screamed, trying to warn the soldiers outside. but she didn't get the chance to finish. David stabbed her, ending her life instantly. With Laura dead, David knew he had to escape. He moved quickly, killing the remaining soldiers and disabling their vehicles by shooting out the tires. Only Carver was still alive. Desperate, Carver jumped into a car with flat tires and took off, trying to catch up. At the same time, another car sped toward David. It was Spencer. David didn't slow down. He buckled up and drove straight into him. The impact wrecked both cars. David got out, walked to the crumpled vehicle, and saw Spencer, barely conscious, bleeding. Without hesitation, David apologized and shot him dead. Then he left the wreckage behind and disappeared into the distance on foot. Moments later, Carver reached the crash site. It was too late. He spotted an old man nearby, showed his credentials, and took the man's vehicle. He headed straight for the diner where Anna worked. Inside, Carver approached her. He introduced himself and told her it was about David. At the mention of the name, Anna didn't ask questions. She agreed to go. Moments after Carver and Anna pulled away, David arrived at the diner in a stolen car. He walked inside and spotted Kristen, the only one working. He asked where Anna had gone. Kristen didn't have the details but confirmed Anna had just left. David immediately knew where she was headed. She was going to pick up Luke. That was enough for him to decide. Anna had become a threat. She knew too much. She had to be eliminated. But first, David turned on Kristen. He killed her on the spot, right in front of everyone. Then, without pause, he threw 2 grenades into the diner. The explosion destroyed everything. No one inside survived. There would be no witnesses. Meanwhile, Anna and Carver were on the road, heading to Luke's school. During the drive, Carver delivered devastating news. Both her parents were dead. Then he told her the full truth about David. He wasn't just a former soldier. He was part of a military experiment. His mind had been altered, trained to kill anyone who threatened to reveal who he really was. And even if he wanted to stop, it might no longer be possible. David's trail of violence had started long before he showed up at the Peterson house. He had broken out of the facility, killing several people along the way and burning their bodies to throw off pursuit. Investigators believed he died in the fire. For a while, no one knew where he had gone until Anna called the military base. That call gave him away. At the same time, Luke was at school, serving detention by helping set up the haunted house for the Halloween dance. The teacher in charge didn't allow phones, so when Anna tried to warn him, he didn't see the call. Shortly after, Anna and Carver reached the school just in time. They rushed inside and found Luke with the teacher, but before they could say anything, the lights went out. A familiar song started playing, the one from the Mix CD Anna had made for David. It was a clear signal. David was inside. Carver quickly told the teacher to take them out the back. Their only escape route led through the mirror maze. But as the teacher turned the first corner, David was waiting. He stabbed him without hesitation, killing him instantly. With no time left, Carver told Anna and Luke to run while he stayed behind to face David. But the plan fell apart. David didn't rush. He toyed with Carver, then stabbed him repeatedly. Carver tried to crawl away, bleeding heavily. In the end, he died alone, surrounded by shadows. Now only Anna and Luke remained. But Luke still couldn't accept the truth. He believed David was just running from danger, not trying to hurt them. That changed when Anna told him David had murdered their parents. She broke down in tears, begging him to understand.
He killed Mom and Dad.
Finally, he believed her. Moments later, Anna told Luke to hide. She would draw David away and keep him distracted. During this time, Luke was to stay hidden until help arrived or it was safe to move. Then the hunt began. David moved through the school, searching room by room. The siblings stayed out of sight. But Anna made the first move. She caught up to him in the dark, raised the gun she had taken from Carver, and fired into his chest. David dropped to the floor, but the air was thick with smoke. In the confusion, she lost sight of his body. This time, David struck first. He came out of the shadows and stabbed Anna in the leg just as she raised the gun for another shot. Her bullet went wide, shattering a light fixture and sparking a fire. Injured and unable to fight back, Anna was moments from being strangled when Luke broke his promise.
Stop it.
He stepped out of hiding and drove the butterfly knife into David. At that moment, David dropped instantly. But instead of fighting back, he looked at Luke, smiled, gave him a thumbs up, and told him he had done the right thing. He said there was nothing to feel guilty about. In response, Luke and Anna escaped as flames tore through the school. Outside, fire trucks and police arrived in force. The two were rushed to an ambulance, bruised but alive. The worst seemed to be over. Once the officer came out, the unsettling news arrived. Only 2 bodies had been recovered from the fire. As responders moved through the wreckage, Anna caught sight of a firefighter limping out of the building. He suddenly stopped before looked at her, and in that moment, she knew. The nightmare wasn't over. And with that, the story comes to an end. So, the moral of the story is, never trust a man who shows up with a tragic backstory, emotional wisdom, and suspiciously good combat skills. He's probably not there to heal. He's there to finish the sequel.